Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive.
And good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Whenever, wherever you're listening to the show, this is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately. Like the Founding Fathers, British by birth, but American by choice. I am your different voice of the constitutional supporters. And I'm welcoming you tonight to episode 235 that I've titled What the Media Missed, and I will get to that later in the show. Coming to you, as I promised last week, not from the Patrick Come Lately studio in Cumming, Georgia, but coming to you from a hotel in Hartford, Connecticut. That's right, I'm in New England. And coming up to New England last Sunday early evening, I was very much reminded why this place is called New England, because flying in to Hartford, I have to say that the landscape did very much remind me of when I fly back to the UK and you're landing at Gatwick or Heathrow Airport. Obviously there are some buildings around that are very American, but in this part of the country, there's still a lot which does remind me of my homeland, and small fields and typical sort of English-type buildings. It was almost like coming home in a way. But we've got plenty to talk about tonight. Want to say hi to my friends in the chat room there, my regular friends Rex and Paul. Hello to you all. Thanks for joining me there. Anyone else who's listening live, please look for the little black and white speech button over on the right hand side where you're listening to the show, a little speech button with some dots in it. Click on that, it opens up the chat room, and we have a little bit of chat there, and I'll try and react to any comments and questions come up, but we've got a lot to cover tonight, so chat amongst yourselves there, but if I can, I will react to what's going on. So obviously tonight I'm going to have to say a little bit about the escalation of the war in Syria. There's a couple of things. Most people say we have to do something about the Islamic State, that this sort of pseudo country that the terrorists are trying to set up. Whether or not just an air war is going to cut it is a long discussion. There are a couple of other issues that I want to discuss. First of all, let's start off with the Constitution. Basically, it is at this point very debatable whether or not the Constitution was followed in carrying out these attacks, much like in Libya. And now again, and on many other issues, it looks like a dear leader is thumbing his nose at the Constitution. Can we do anything about it? No. Can Congress do anything about it? They could, but they're not going to. I don't think so. For example, Greta on her show today called them all out and said if you were really serious about keeping your power and not just letting King Barry get away with it, you would fly back in spite of the recess, reconvene Congress, and at least have a debate and possibly even pass a motion of censure or something like that against the president. Certainly symbolic, but at least it shows you have some backbone. And I know for those of you that feel campaigning is more important, especially on the Republican side, if you were to go back and do that, I know that you would garner a lot of votes of people who would be thankful for you standing up to this pseudo dictator who lives in the White House. So war in Syria, hypocrisy on the left. If you think back to the 2012 election campaign, some things Joe Biden said about Mitt Romney wanting to go in and bomb Syria. Mitt Romney bombed Syria. That sounds very funny. And even our dear friend, dear leader himself, saying that he felt that this was something George Bush wanted to do, and that he wanted to get into office not to start wars but end them. And I think in the last, since World War II, and even with World War II, even maybe longer than that, he is the president that has started the most individual wars. We've got Libya, we've got Syria. He sent troops into Africa to go after some of the terrorists there. So he's actually started more wars than any other president, probably. I mean, that's 3 that I can count on one hand. Crazy. But anyway, like I said, hypocrisy of the left. And one other thing, while everybody's going to be cheering this, he's going to say, look at me, thumping on his chest and saying, oh, I'm so good, look at what I did, I'm hard on terrorists and trying to garner votes that way. There is something else. Yep, that's the sound of the barn door closing after the horse has left. Because really, with the attacks that started yesterday, which took place at night in Syria, how much of an effect do you think it had? Now, it may have destroyed some of ISIS's infrastructure, buildings, etc. But how many key people do you actually think were in the buildings when they were destroyed? How much do you think we really are killing their leaders? Not much. So why do you think he would have ordered the strikes at night? Some people might say shock and awe. I think there's another reason. Maybe a little convoluted, but I think that the reason he wanted to do that strike at night is because he knew there would be less people in those buildings. And as a good Muslim, one of the tenets of the Quran is that you don't kill other Muslims. And that is his reason for doing it this way. And that's been his reason for all of the way that he's been approaching this whole ISIS problem. Wants to fence them in and do the least possible human damage, even though they are thugs and just absolute despicable people. He wants to do the least possible human damage to them because, like I said, as a good Muslim, he should not kill other Muslims. But anyway, we'll see what's going on. Now, of course, the interesting thing is that after many people saying this is what's going to happen, and the regime saying, oh, no, we've got everything under control, etc., finally DHS today admitted that there are probably of the over 100 Americans who left and went to fight with ISIS, that there are probably as many as 50 who have since come back and are here in the US, could not be held coming back in because they're US passport holders. And so who knows what they're getting ready to do. DHS has warned of a possibility of an attack. I think the folks at DHS are going to be very worried, because if an attack does happen between now and November, that's going to definitely have an impact, a negative impact for the Democrats in the election. But isn't it just frightening that they don't do anything about it? And by the way, remember, folks, that our dear friend, the Democrats, which I always spell with an R-A-T-S in capitals at the end, because I think that's all they deserve, are the ones who voted against a law that was submitted by, well, of course it was Ted Cruz. There was no way they were going to support that, but in the Senate, and I think Michelle Bachmann has put in something similar in the House, to suspend the passports of people who fight for ISIS. As I said last week in the constitutional special that I did, to me, I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but the fact that they are fighting for ISIS, who is fighting against America and has declared as such, is enough to declare them treasonable and to, at the very least, suspend their passports so when they return to the US they can be arrested immediately and tried for treason. That's one way to stop them coming back into the country and just being free to go off and do whatever, cause whatever mayhem and kill people the way they want. Now, maybe at the end of the line the treason is not provable, they can be got off, but at least we can slow them down a lot, and by the time we've had them in prison for a while, who knows what can happen there. Other prisoners may not like them much. That would be one way to solve the problem. Or once they get out, they will have maybe lost their contacts, and also it'd be probably a lot easier to keep track of them than just letting them come into the country and they disappear off the airport. At least when we release them from prison, we can track them, we can follow them, we can know what they're doing. But do you think we're going to do that? I doubt it. Okay, folks, let's go on and let's chat about the next topic. And talking about losing 50 ISIS fighters, albeit American ISIS fighters, what about the 6,000 foreigners on student visas who could do us harm? Yes, that's right. Again, the federal government put out a report, and this is actually a couple of weeks ago, saying that they had lost track of more than 6,000 foreigners on student visas, some of who may be in the country to do us harm. Now, according to an ABC News investigation, 58,000 students overstayed their visas in the past year, but the federal government's lost track of 6,000 that are particularly suspicious. A little bit over 10% of the students had overstayed their visa. Right, so of those 58,000, 6,000 were referred to agents for follow-up because they were determined to be of heightened concern, as they put. In other words, they suspect they could do something. So, I mean, that is absolutely also unbelievable that in this time of supposed security that this sort of thing can happen. Of course, one of the reasons for all this, and there are quite a lot of foreign nationals who come here to study. In 2012, it was over 1.2 million. So you used to say, well, 58,000 is not that much. It's still a big number that they lose. And a lot of the institutes that they come to are just known that they're not really doing anything. They're just money mills. They have the students come in and pay for their tuition. And then these folks don't attend school, they disappear, and nobody does anything about it. The schools are supposed to be self-policing. Do you think they're going to tell TSA or DHS or ICE or whatever that these students are not attending school? I doubt it. And these are sort of non-accredited universities, which probably, in some case, I wouldn't be at all surprised, don't do anything else but exist to grant these people visas, collect money, and then just don't do anything for them. So, folks, you thought you were safe, you're not safe. And after the story of what ISIS was going to try and do in Australia, expect something similar here. Folks, I will tell you one thing. If you're not carrying now, you should be. Because who knows what knife-wielding, machete-wielding nutcase you're going to run into, and you need self-protection. Okay, let's see, how are we doing for time? Well, the first commercial break is coming up. So, just one very quick one before the break then. Now, remember that we swapped 5 high-value detainees for 1 American traitor, which everybody insists was treason by Obama as well. And now, turns out, and I haven't been able to confirm, this is just one report, but it is being reported that at least 3 of the 5 detainees that were sent to Qatar and were supposed to be there for at least 1 year have been have left Qatar and have joined ISIS in Syria and Iraq as commanders, and are using that rank to, again, create mayhem in Iraq and Syria, and trying to usher in this Islamic caliphate. Now, this is totally against what was agreed, and again, I've mentioned it before, Article 2 of the Constitution clearly states that treason is the act of giving aid or comfort to the enemy, or that of waging war against the United States. The first one is what the president did, and the second one is those who join ISIS. So it's very simple. Take away their passports and impeach the former. Okay, folks, it's time for the first break, I'm afraid. So we will do that right now, and stick with me. We're going to continue with our next topic after the break.
You can lose 10, 20, 30 pounds or more with Maximum Slim's first ever rapid weight loss guarantee. Today, you get Maximum Slim, an advanced fat and carb blocker, absolutely risk-free. The all-natural ingredients in Maximum Slim are a powerful weight loss combination. The Maximum Slim formula turns your body into a fat-burning furnace that supercharges your weight loss. Advanced fat and carb blocker stops the breakdown of sugar so your body doesn't store it as fat. Today, you'll get both of these products absolutely risk-free with no obligation. Only pay shipping. There are no expensive meal plans or exhausting DVDs. Just take Maximum Slim twice a day. It's fast, simple, and now it's guaranteed. Look, you can start losing weight today or not. Go back to your high school days and wear your favorite jeans again. Guaranteed. Call now and get both weight loss formulas free. Call 800-451-0228. 800-451-0228. That's 800-451-0228.
Attention. Have you been in a serious automobile accident? Then you need to call our attorneys now. We specialize in helping our clients get compensated for major auto injuries. If you've been in any type of car or motorcycle accident and you've been seriously injured, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation. Our attorneys have recovered millions and millions of dollars for injured clients. There are no out-of-pocket costs to you ever. We only receive a fee when we win your case. We are available 24/7. If you've been in an accident and been seriously injured, make this free call to our attorneys now. Call the Personal Injury Center at 800-634-1315. 800-634-1315. 800-634-1315. That's 800-634-1315. This ad is paid for by participating member law firms. We are not an attorney referral service. Representation may not be available in your state.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us.
And this is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately. Thanks for sticking with me through the break. I just want to make a quick comment on something going on in the chat room. Rex was talking about jumping over the fence to get back home tonight, and I just said jump over the fence. I'd lost the connection with that. Sorry, it's been a hard couple of days up here in Hartford working. But then he reminded me it was about the fence jumper at the White House, and I saw a good thing on the internet tonight, where someone said, no, that's the wrong name. The person that did that is not a fence jumper. He is actually an undocumented White House visitor. There you are, liberals. Take that one and put it in your pipe and smoke it. Anyway, okay, folks. Sorry about that. British humor there, I guess. But let's go on to the next topic, and this is my commentary for tonight. If you like, the title of tonight's show, What the Media Missed, Behind the News, I call this, and what they missed or forgot to tell you. Maybe it was deliberate. Now, Joe Biden was last week was a gaffe machine again. Was kind of used to that, but last week I think there were four things he did. I wasn't really surprised by all of them, but a couple of them sort of also I said, well, yeah, but people use this terminology. Why is everybody a flutter? But I've got to remember, we're in this awful time of political correctness. Anything that you say is wrong. But he used a sense where he used the word Shylock about people lending money, and of course this was denigrating to Jews. And then he used the word Orient, denigrating Asians, supposedly, instead of saying Asians, using the word Orient because it goes to Oriental, and Oriental was used in the past in the same way that the N-word was used, I guess, and that's sort of very convoluted. Orient is not Oriental, but people, these panty waist liberals really seem to take offense at. Anyway, but amongst all that furor, the media missed one very key item, and actually in a way it's rather a frightening item. Now, when Biden used the word Orient, it was talking about him visiting Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore, who Biden described as the wisest man in the Orient. That's where they took offense. Now, for those of you that don't know, Lee Kuan Yew used to be the Prime Minister of Singapore. He is now retired, and as you know, Singapore is sort of an economic powerhouse, and everybody looks at Singapore and, bastion of democracy in the East, and economic powerhouse, and what they did with this very small island with virtually no natural resources at all, built this very rich island state. And so Biden describing him as the wisest man in the Orient. Now, of course, regressives love Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, because what they forget to mention that he was, actually, probably still is, a ruthless dictator. Yes, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew is actually a ruthless dictator. In fact, many people describe Singapore as being a benign dictatorship. But dictatorship, it really is. I've been privileged, actually, to have lived in Singapore on 2 occasions, for each time for a couple of years. So I know of what I speak. Singapore is a dictatorship, and it's pretty ruthless as well. Opposition there is tolerated as long as they are weak. But as soon as they show any signs of growing in power, they are cut down mercilessly using the full force of the judiciary, political and economic forces. And when I say going from weak, I mean they have out of their parliament, I don't know how many representatives they have for all the wards on the island, but there are maybe 1 or 2 opposition figures, and the rest is all part of the ruling party. There are no checks and balances in the Singapore political system. So here's an example. If one of the wards elects, or even comes close to electing, a non-approved opposition candidate, like I said, there are 1 or 2 approved, in quotes, opposition candidates that are tolerated, but if somebody else comes close to being elected in a ward, the people living in that ward know that for the next few years they can forget any government money for upgrades to their government housing, their government schooling, facilities, etc. So guess how many wards will elect people that the government doesn't want? Yeah, it's very, very, very rare. If an unwanted candidate is actually successful, and sometimes not even successful, just close to successful, it is likely they'll find themselves in court on some trumped-up charges, which, and if they have been successful and elected, but by the time they've actually fought those trumped-up charges, they will have been basically disqualified from serving to the seat that they're elected, or there will be not much time left in their time in the seat. There's more. Singapore is supposedly a very capitalistic free market economy. Surprisingly, though, Most of the successful companies in Singapore are all owned by families entrenched in the government, by the government itself. Families entrenched in the government, for example, the Lee family is now a very rich family, or by people closely connected to the government. Nepotism in Singapore is a way of life. The person that took over from Lee Kuan Yew, at least officially, is his son B.G. Lee. But everyone in Singapore knows that Lee Kuan Yew still exerts power from behind the throne. So, of course, well, and there's actually more. I mean, everyone in Biden and the rest of the regressive crowd think Lee Kuan Yew is the wisest and the greatest man in Asia. He succeeded in creating their idea of nirvana, the perfect nanny state, which is the perfect description of Singapore. Nanny state on steroids. Another example, some of you may have heard about the fact that there is a ban on chewing gum in Singapore. The first time we lived there, shortly before that, they have a subway system there, and a couple of times trains had been delayed for 10-15 minutes because people had been spitting out chewing gum and it had glued up the doors and kind of put the trains out of operation. So government just takes the easy answer. Chewing gum is banned. No more selling of chewing gum. Now, at the time, I don't know whether that ban is still in place, but when we lived there, there was actually an exception to the rule. If you were coming in from abroad, and especially for foreigners, you were permitted for personal use to bring in 5 packs of chewing gum. Now, when I lived there, I used to travel a lot outside of Singapore, so my kids used to love it when I came home every time, because wherever I went, whether it was Bangkok, Kuala Lumpur, or maybe Hong Kong, or Seoul, or Tokyo, or Australia, I would bring back 5 packs of chewing gum, and because I traveled a lot, I would be bringing back almost every week. So they were, pretty okay with chewing gum. But it's that nanny state, that perfect nanny state. They have government inspectors that come round your yards, and if you have any bowl or pool of water where mosquitoes can breed, you get a $200-300 fine, just like that. They can just come in. They don't need a warrant or anything. They can just come in and look. The Singapore government does not like any kind of criticism. For years, the Wall Street Journal could not be published, imported, or sold in Singapore because a little bit earlier they had published an article that the government didn't like. And in actual fact, if just this broadcast comes to the attention of the Singapore government, it could have me flagged as an undesirable and refused entry if I did return to Singapore. And they do that. Now, the article that the Wall Street Journal had expressed sentiments similar to what I've told you tonight, merely the truth, maybe an opinionated truth, but the truth. And so, they banned the Wall Street Journal. Who knows? I might turn up in Singapore one day. They scan the passport, and no going in. Okay, so anyway, that was my commentary for today. Look behind the news sometimes, and remember, and for me the frightening part about this is, number one, the media didn't tell you what Lee Kuan Yew was, but number two, the way that our regressives, our Democrats, our current regime idolizes Lee Kuan Yew, basically showing that they want to be just like him, create this perfect nanny state, which ain't going to work, folks, but they don't ever... nobody ever listens, but it's, and like I said, having lived there, I've seen it, and while it all looks nice on the surface, underneath it is not at all what we would ever want. Okay, just very quickly, one quick little topic. And while we're talking about this fact that everybody was up in arms about Shylock and Orient because it was denigrating Asians, these labels, these politically correct labels that we're attaching to everybody, so we can't call somebody Oriental, we can't use the word Orient, but we can use Asians, right? Well, if Oriental is negative to Asians, so we call them Asians, right? The liberals are saying Oriental is negative, so they're very quick to attach a negative to any description of a group of people, and yet they are the ones that usually divide people into groups. We as conservatives normally just say, hey, everybody's equal and we don't care what you are, just what you do. But liberals, no, they divide us all into groups. So years ago, Oriental used to be used to describe Asians, and I don't disagree that it was often used in a negative way, like the N-word. So now we have to use Asians, we shouldn't use Oriental. Agreed. But what if people started using Asian in a negative way? What do we do next? Do we call them Easterners? Largest continenters? Where's this PC madness going to stop, folks? Anyway, time for our next commercial break, so stick with me. I'll be right back after these messages.
Patriot come lately. British by birth. American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
Every day, millions of Americans grow more concerned about the future of our great nation. The truth is, over the last century, a small but powerful collectivist movement known as progressivism has debased our politics, our culture, and our currency. We're just a small step from falling into 1,000 years of darkness, as Ronald Reagan warned. Friend, this is Pat Boone with an important free offer on a hot new book called The Great Withdrawal by Craig Smith and Lowell Ponte. This new book explains how we, the people, can end this fatal detour into big government and get back on the path of faith and freedom charted by our founders. Call now for a free copy of the hot new book called The Great Withdrawal.
Call now for your free copy. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. That's 800-978-3901.
Boy, man, I had a rough night's sleep. Boy, I got a letter from the IRS yesterday, and I just couldn't sleep. Man, I'm dying here. Somebody help me.
IRS problems affect more than just your finances. If you're ready to take back control of your life and you owe more than $10,000, you need to call the tax doctor. Their expert staff can immediately protect you from the IRS and state collectors and get you the best possible tax settlement guaranteed. The IRS has recently released new programs geared in helping struggling taxpayers, where you may qualify to settle your tax debt and wipe out up to 85% or more of what you currently owe. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, call the tax doctor right now. See if you qualify to pay less. 800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. Again, 800-917-8546.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us.
And thanks for sticking with me through the break. Before we go on to our next topic, and for my next topic, I want to answer some issues. You may remember last week I kind of admonished one of the people that communicates with me on a regular basis, my friend Dennis, and I admonished him in the first place because I think he is very hard on the Republicans, spends a lot of time attributing everything to a far right-wing conspiracy, which to me makes him sound very left-wing, although he does still claim that he is conservative, and he likes to use the term paleo-conservative, and I want to talk a little bit about that this evening, because there are some things in that I like, and there are some things that I may discuss about that he may not totally agree with, but there are some interesting tenets there. However, as part of this far right-wing conspiracy. He also has an intense hatred for the Tea Party, which I don't understand. I believe that the Tea Party actually is a lot closer to the paleo-conservatism than he would admit. Admittedly, that here and there are some people who are fairly extreme, but that's the same on all sides. And you sometimes have to overlook the chaff and just see what the wheat is, and I think there's a lot of good wheat in the Tea Party. So, but before I do that, therefore, I'm going to do a couple of things. First, play some words from what I think one of our greatest Tea Partiers, although the label wouldn't have been applied at the time, and then play another one of those great Tea Party anthems. I feel like a bit of music tonight. Let's listen first of all to Dear Old Ronnie, and then to Ava Aston, and then we're going to talk about paleo-conservatism. So here they come.
And this idea that government is beholden to the people, that it has no other source of power except the sovereign people, is still the newest and the most unique idea in all the long history of man's relation to man. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government, or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves. You and I are told increasingly we have to choose between a left or right. Well, I'd like to suggest there is no such thing as a left or right. There's only an up or down. Man's old age dream, the ultimate in individual freedom consistent with law and order, or down to the ant heap of totalitarianism.
They've been doing are not good for you and me. Together we are united, together we are strong. With one voice we'll stand up against everything that's wrong. Time to stand up, time to speak out. We've got to fight to get it back.
Okay, folks, thanks for listening to that great song, avaaston.com, available on iTunes. And Paul, thanks for supporting these artists. They do a great job, and they have some great music. And of course, the what I would call the Tea Party type anthems are really the best. But they also have other good music. So let's support these people who are supporting us as well. Okay, paleo-conservatism. And as I said, my friend Dennis, who doesn't like the Tea Party, so that song was a little bit of a jibe at him. But I think that there are some things to paleo-conservatism, and basically what this means is the conservatives not corrupted by a lot of what's going on today, because I think there is a lot of regressivism coming into the GOP. And this is something that was written by a person called Russell Kirk, who has set up a website about paleo-conservatism. I guess he's trying to be sort of a leader of that group. And he says, being neither a religion or an ideology, the body of opinion termed conservatism possesses no holy writ, no das Kapital to provide dogmata, which is quite true. In essence, the conservative person is simply one who finds the permanent things more pleasing than chaos and old night. Yet conservatives know with Burke that healthy change is the means of our preservation. This is a question of finding a balance, and he has 10 articles of belief that he feels reflect the emphasis of conservatives in America. So I want to quickly run through those because, as I said, they are quite interesting, and I want to talk a little bit about them as well in the remainder of the show. So first, he says, the conservative believes that there exists an enduring moral order. So in other words, all this immorality that the liberals are foisting upon us is bad, and I would definitely agree with that. That order is made for man, and man is made for it. Human nature is a constant, and moral truths are permanent. So there is, there is no change in moral truths, but liberals are trying to persuade us that there are these changes. And he reminds us that, if you look at atrocities and disasters of Greece in the 5th century before Christ, where they went, that was ruin. If you see other countries where societies fail because they think clever self-interest or ingenious social controls for pleasing alternatives to an old-fangled moral order will work, and they find out that they don't. It has been said by liberal intellectuals that the conservative believes all social questions at heart to be questions of private morality, and I agree with that. It is private morality, but the liberals try and make it public morality. Okay, folks, it's time for the final commercial break, and we'll have a look at the other 9 articles immediately after this final commercial break.
Reporting from the eye of the storm. This is the worst weather we've seen in quite some time, folks. And I don't see any end in sight. People have been calling in from across the state complaining their basements are flooding. One guy said he now has an indoor swimming pool in his basement. I told him he needs the waterproofing innovations from Basement Systems. If you want a dry basement or crawl space that will weather any kind of storm, you need the patented solutions from Basement Systems. You've seen them on home makeover shows throughout the country. With a lifetime warranty, every solution is custom designed for your basement. Call now for a free estimate, and you'll never have to worry about storms like these again. I'm predicting this storm front is heading your way, so call Basement Systems and relax.
Call 800-205-8665 for your free in-home inspection, or visit basementradiooffer.com. That's 800-205-8665, or visit basementradiooffer.com.
I've owned my company for 14 years now, and I can tell you that payroll is a 4-letter word. I hate doing it. It eats up hours I don't have, and it costs me money I could be saving. But my accountant's too expensive, and I'm not sure who to call. But I know I need help.
We're Paychex, and we take all the hassles out of small business payroll. We save you time and money. It's easy. Call, fax, or give us your payroll information securely online, and we take care of the rest. We calculate the correct taxes, manage payments and direct deposits. We even send out your checks. Payroll doesn't need to be a four-letter word anymore. We're so sure that we can save you time and money that we'll give you a month's payroll free. Just for calling 877-750-5371. Get 1 month's payroll for free. Call Paychex right now. 877-750-5371. That's 877-750-5371.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us.
And we're into the last segment of the show. Just want to remind you, if you like the show, please tell your friends. If you don't like the show, please tell your enemies. But please spread the word. We need to get the message out. We need to keep the spirit of constitutionalism and conservatism alive, and perhaps the message of paleo-conservatism. That's the topic for the remainder of the show. We're talking about the 10 articles as put forward by Russell Kirk. And the first one was the conservative believes there exists an enduring moral order. The second one is conservative adheres to custom, convention, and continuity. And that's basically the fact that old custom enables people to live together peaceably. You know what to expect. And the destroyers of customs demolish more than they know or desire. And we see that a lot with the liberals trying to destroy our customs. It is through convention that we avoid perpetual disputes about rights and duties. Basically, law is a body of conventions, and continuity is the means of linking both custom and convention from generation to generation. Conservatives are champions of custom, convention, continuity because they prefer the devil they know to the devil they don't know. That's right. Customs and conventions are not always 100% right. But it seems every time we try and change them for the better, we actually get a lot of things for the worse as well. Number 3, conservatives believe in what may be called the principle of prescription. So conservatives sense that modern people are dwarfs on the shoulders of giants. Look, for example, to the Founding Fathers, able to see farther than their ancestors only because of the great stature of those who have preceded us. So that's why we often emphasize the importance of prescription, that is, of things established by immemorial usage, very similar to custom, convention, and continuity. Number 4, conservatives are guided by their principle of prudence. Many statesmen, many commentators like Burke and Plato agree that in the statesman, prudence is chief amongst virtues. Now, we've seen a lot of prudence from dear leader, because he's just so prudent he doesn't dare to do anything. But I don't think that's what they mean with prudence. That's just almost cowardice. Any public measure ought to be judged by its probable long-run consequences, not merely by temporary advantage or popularity. And that's the difference between a prudent statesman and what we currently have in the White House. Number 5, conservatives pay attention to the principle of variety, but we don't force it on people. We don't have these diversity things. We know that variety is there, and we want to be distinguished from the narrowing uniformity and deadening egalitarianism of radical systems. Number 6, conservatives are chastened by their principle of imperfectibility. We know that human nature suffers from grave faults. We know that we are imperfect, and we know that no perfect social order ever can be created. If we had any utopian domination, mankind would grow rebellious under it. It would never be successful. Number 7, conservatives are persuaded that freedom and property are closely linked. And these, of course, are things that are in our Constitution. Upon the foundation of private property, says Kirk, great civilizations are built. Number 8, conservatives uphold voluntary community quite as they oppose involuntary collectivism. And this is one where I think Dennis might disagree with me, because I think some of these things align quite a bit with the 9/12 objectives and principles that Glenn Beck was putting forward. And he's, as you know, Glenn Beck is very much into voluntary charity as opposed to involuntary collectivism. And that's what America is good at. We're known for our charity. 9th, the conservative perceives the need for prudent restraints upon power and upon human passions. In other words, we have to restrain power, and we have to make sure that people restrain themselves. You can do whatever you want for yourself, to yourself, but your passion shouldn't extend beyond that. And number 10, the thinking conservative understands that permanence and change must be recognized and reconciled in a vigorous society. So we know that we want permanence, but we also know that change will take place. We know we're not opposed to social improvement, but we doubt that there is such a force as mystical progress with a capital P at work in the world. When a society is progressing in some respects, it is often declining in other respects, right? And we have to balance that. Okay, folks, we're slowly getting close to the end of the show here. It's almost time to go to our final music. Just want to thank you for joining me this week. There's lots of topics I wasn't able to get to again, so I'll keep those over. I've got another funny one for next week. It was it was fun talking to you. Once again, remind you, if you go to my website, www.patrickcomelately.us, you can contact me there, send me an email, or send an email to stephan@patrickcomelately.us. And as I said, here we go. I hear the music starting. It's time to say TTFN. Thanks for joining me. Come back next week and bring your friends.
Thank you for listening to the show. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's topics. Whether you listened live, to a recording, or to a rebroadcast, I appreciate the time you share with me. We need to spread the message of liberty far and wide, so please tell your friends and family about the show. Thank you for helping to keep the beacon of hope burning. This is Stephan, your Patrick Come Lately, signing off. God bless America, and remember, L3, long live liberty.